Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back into another episode of the Machine Heads interview series here on the Compact Equipment YouTube channel and compactequip.com. We're going to continue our conversation series that we've been having on mini skid steers today. We're going to be talking with Brant Kukuk, who is a product manager for Ditch Witch. Obviously, the category of mini skid steers has grown tremendously just in the last 4 or 5 years. It's a long established category, and Ditch Witch is one of the oldest players in that category, actually producing the machine with the highest lift capacity of all mini skid steers on the market today, which is the SK3000. But since then, really since introducing that machine in 2017, a lot has really changed in the industry. It's kind of oriented itself, or the market has really oriented itself around this 1,000 pound rated operating capacity machine size class. And several new competitors have entered the market since 2020. Several new and popular machines have entered the market since then. So we're going to talk with Brant today a little bit about how Ditch Witch is coping with all of this newfound competition, how the industry or how this segment has changed, and kind of what Ditch Witch's really fundamental kind of philosophy when they approach designing mini skid steers is today, and kind of what maybe how the popularity of certain models has kind of shifted in this lineup, and what are some of the most popular models today. So lots of good stuff to get into. So without further ado, here's Brant Kukuk of Ditch Witch.
Brant, you're the product manager at Ditch Witch for compact equipment up to 74 horsepower. Again, thank you so much for joining us today to talk through this really interesting segment of machine. And we'll first kind of start with discussing the stand-on skid steer kind of segment itself. Over the last several years, obviously this segment has kind of grown from just a few brands to several competing brands. A lot of it around that 1,000 pound capability mark, but multiple models, multiple brands now, lots of interest, lots of growth. Within Ditch Witch, I mean, you guys have been established in this segment for as long as just about anybody. Except for maybe some of the ones that were there at the very, very, very beginning. But, what do you guys attribute the growth that you have seen in this segment to? Just kind of like the increase in interest, and usually really the last kind of like 5 to 7 years.
Yeah, I think the stand-on skid steer is filling a space in the market that has helped the landscaper, hardscaper, arborist complete jobs on compact job sites compared to a traditional cab skid steer. These machines are much smaller in size, still very capable as far as the lifting capacities, and more affordable than a compact track loader has been in the past. So it's starting to fill a lot of those spaces, startups, the small crews, where it's more affordable for a smaller crew to go out and make this entry-level purchase to get into some machine-type functions where they're needing to lift 1,000 pounds. Like you said, a lot of competitors coming in at 1,000-pound space, that's more than 3 or 4 guys can lift. So it's really helping reduce the crew sizes. And, with the limited workforce that we have today, it's able to go out and complete those tasks that it took 6 guys to do in the past.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So, a lot of the kind of, I've said this before, but like a lot of the same things that have really led to the compact kind of market itself kind of accelerating and seeing growth. And then, like you said, in a huge way, this can be extremely a beneficial tool for those landscapers and hardscapers. And even in a lot of construction applications as well. But from you guys' standpoint, what are the key kind of design aspects or features that a modern, mini skid or stand-on skid steer has got to deliver? What are people specifically looking for in these machines here in 2024 as opposed to maybe what they look for in the past?
Yeah, so all the models now come with a platform, so you are standing on the machine. That way you can travel with the machine at faster speeds. So the old models, when this was first introduced into the market, you would walk behind it, and you were limited in speed. right? Because you're walking behind it. But now most all models are coming with platforms so you can ride on them. They've gotten faster over the years. And one of our SK3000 is our fastest model at 6 miles an hour. So it can really get back and forth on a job site. You're moving material back and forth. You want to be on that platform so we can go as fast as we can and still be able to ride it. But that's the biggest feature that's developed over the years is the easy on-off. You got the platform, you're off, you're moving material by hand, and then you get back on. So you're becoming an operator and a guy on the ground very easily without having to climb out of a cab like a traditional skid steer. That's the biggest feature of the stand-ons is that easy on-off 360-degree visibility that you get with this type of a machine. The other thing is that these machines have stayed fairly simple in controls. You typically have like 3 joysticks on a stand-on skid steer. One's for your ground drive, one's for your auxiliary function, and then the third lever for your loader arm functions. So they're very easy to operate. On the Ditch Witch machines, we have very similar controls across all the models. So if you jump on one entry-level model, you would be able to run an SK3000, our largest model, because all the controls are similar across the board and very intuitive for operating. So very easy to operate for entry-level all the way to an experienced guy. So once you've been on one machine, you're capable of running all the models. So that's been good for the rental yards too. The rental yards like that, where a homeowner can come in, get on a machine with a few instructions, they're off and running.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then like kind of thinking about some of those features that you were just talking about there, and some of the design priorities. As the market has kind of matured even further in these last 5 to 7 years, because I mean, the SK3000 was launched even like 3 or 4 years before. I kind of see 2020 as almost like a demarcation kind of line where it really felt like that's when this segment really kind of accelerated in a really big way in terms of going from like 3 or 4 competing manufacturers to 5, 6, 7. And the 3000 was announced, a few years before that. But when you think about kind of like some of these modern demands and again, that kind of clumping up of kind of like interest around that 1,000 pound mark, and you guys had a wide, you guys and parent company, Toro now have had a wide kind of like array of kind of lift capacities and size options, for years. When you guys have seen kind of like that interest start gravitating toward that 1,000 pound mark specifically, has that kind of changed the way that you guys have started to kind of design these machines in terms of like response to the market? Has it changed your kind of understanding of what customer demand is centered around, or kind of like how you should design these machines? How has that kind of like either reshaped your design priorities or kind of like changed the way you kind of think about these machines recently?
Yeah, I think being in the mini skid steer business for 20 years now, we have really developed our machines over these years. We felt very stable in our designs by the time that these competitors have came into play. And we have a lot of focus on making a more reliable machine. With the launch of the SK1750, we're out of that space of all the other entry-level machines have came into. The 1750, we've focused on reliability with the undercarriage. We have new tri-track system with a tension window that's easy for the operator to know what the track is tensioned to and what it should be tensioned to. So he's very reliable on a job site. The number one concern on these job sites is downtime, right? We got to keep these machines running. With all these other competitors coming into play, we're keeping our focus on the reliability of our machines, so we can stay ahead of the competition in that way. And like I said, with the new tri-track system on the 1750, We've put new rollers under it, so the rollers are even more reliable, more durable, and just keep our focus on that. And with our experience in this market, it's interesting to see the competitors come in and do things maybe a little bit differently. Like, well, we've learned that, and there's reasons why we didn't do that, or just it's interesting to see that. But our main focus is to continue to make a more reliable machine.
Gotcha. And for you guys in the lineup, you mentioned the 1750, and then obviously you got the 3000 at the top of the lineup. If you kind of had to kind of generalize things, which of your machines or what type of machine, what kind of like size category, if there's a specific one, which of those machines is generating the most interest for you guys right now?
Yeah, it is the entry level machine. Our SK800 or SK900 are our most popular machines. That's where people start, right? If you're getting into the business and you're looking for machines, that's a more affordable place to start. What I do hear a lot of is that people will go out and buy an SK800, SK900 entry level machine for us, and they wish they had something bigger. They wish they could lift more. I wish I had more horsepower. So I think consideration needs to be taken in the first purchase, that maybe if I could afford something a little bit more, a little bit bigger, the footprint's really not that much bigger on a SK 1050 or SK 1750. Really not that much of a bigger machine, but you're getting more horsepower, you're getting more lifting capacity, and we start to see the guys that are doing landscape, hardscape, moving trees. The trees are weighing 1,500 to 2,000 pounds. That the hardscapes, the big boulders that people are moving, you can't hardly do that with the 1,000-pound machine. So we've had a lot of focus on the breadth of our product line. So you can go out with a mini stand-on skid steer and go tackle those jobs with boulders or sod or big trees, big tree stumps. You can go move those into trucks. That's where the 1750 and the SK3000 shine. It's out of that entry level space, but it's still a compact enough machine. You can get in the backyards. You still have the 360-degree visibility, but you're going out and you can do more with them. You can run heavier duty attachments. You can lift more with pallet forks and so on.
With all of what you just said, kind of under consideration, one of the things that kind of popped up in my mind as you were talking there was, as kind of more customers have kind of like, as more demand has kind of been generated by kind of like the excitement around the segment itself, and you've got kind of more customers kind of maybe even kind of discovering the segment and learning a little bit more about it as the competition has increased, right? Has that kind of, because when you were talking about like the 800 and the 900 and then kind of getting into the machine for the first time and then seeing what those capabilities are, or maybe even like starting with a 1,000-pound capacity machine, and seeing what that can do. I mean, have you guys kind of seen more demand for the machines since kind of like the market started to heat up a little bit? And then B, how much of that have you seen of kind of like, okay, we thought 1,000-pound machine would kind of be enough, but now we know that we actually need a 1,700-pound machine, or we need a 3,000-pound machine, and it's almost kind of like you guys are being proven right about having the breadth to begin with, whereas even a lot of these market entrants and the increased competition, while that has made more people aware, now they're kind of like learning that wait, that's why this whole segment was as established as it was and had so many weight options. How much of that are you seeing where people are thinking like they're coming in at 1,000 and then quickly realizing like, no, we need a little bit more capability than that?
Yeah, that happens a lot. We go to the trade shows worldwide. We hear those purchases are being made, and the first thing I hear is, man, I don't know how I lived without it. Right, even a 1,000-pound machine. How did I live without this for 10 years in business? And I'm amazed by the capabilities of these machines, and all the benefits that we've talked about. But then their immediate reaction is, I wish I could just lift a little bit more. And I was like, well, that's why we have these 5 different models in our lineup, because I just need to lift a little bit more. Well, you need to maybe consider this next model up. You're going to spend a little bit more money. It's got more horsepower. You can do more things with it. You can do even underground construction with a little bit more horsepower. We see some of the bigger stand-on skid steers doing underground construction where it consumes horsepower, where you need that 44 horse or that 59 horse to go do those jobs. If you're doing above ground work, the 24 horse 1,000-pound class is maybe where it's at. But I always hear from everybody I talk to in the industry is I wish I could just lift a little bit more. It's like, well, that's why we have these models.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Whenever we're talking about some of these customers, I'm kind of curious. For you guys, what is kind of your understanding for what the majority of your customers are using these machines for? Is there one particular like specific application? We've mentioned landscapes and hardscapes quite a bit, but what are some of the other kind of applications that these machines are primarily being used for?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, majority of our customers are doing landscape. They're moving dirt, they're laying sod, they're doing irrigation. The fact that you can put on 100 different attachments on the front of this, it can go do a whole lot of variety. It may be trenching for a day, it may be moving dirt for a day, it may be moving snow in the winter. It's just a huge variety of things that these stand-on skid steers can do. A large segment of this stand-on skid steer business is the tree industry, right? You're moving trees, getting into small backyards. We just recently had a storm roll through here in town. They're using stand-on skid steers to clean up all the brush and debris that the winds had tore down. Just ability to get into small neighborhoods has really been the key for these stand-on skid steers, where a traditional cab skid steer is you're not going to be able to see behind you as well in these small yards. You don't want to run over gas meters and whatever else is in the yard. You have that full 360-degree visibility. With that stand-on skid steer, you can really see the yard, right, that you're working in. You may have to get through a 36-inch gate, and some of our stand-on skid steers can do that, because people don't want to tear down the fence, or I don't want you to touch my precious garden I've spent years working on. Please go work around this garden, and you have to just have a narrow machine, and we do have that if you need it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think, obviously landscapers, hardscapers, but then just about any residential type work, whether it's, in smaller private contractors, I mean, electricians or, tree guys or just about anybody can find quite a bit of utility in these machines. And it actually, like you said, it solves a lot of problems for them. Whereas in the past, they might have, if you've had like a tree guy come in to get a tree down, and they might, there might have been a customer that said, well, I'm not tearing my fence down. And they're like, well, we have no other way of getting, this skid steer back there to kind of get all the stuff out, skid steer or CTL back there. So it solves a lot of problems for a lot of different types of work. Now, one of the other things that you mentioned was just kind of like how easy to operate these machines were, a lot less intimidating. And I think that obviously the other customer type that brings in obviously is like the either the people who are kind of unfamiliar with these machines and are professionals, or B, even like homeowners, hobbyists, kind of like weekend warrior type folks. So tell us a little bit about the approachability of these machines, and kind of like you mentioned earlier, they got to be easy to operate. In terms of the approachability, how does that kind of have an impact on the business for you guys too?
Yeah, so you mainly see that in the rental yards. So if a homeowner goes into the rental yard and they see a cab skid steer and a stand-on skid steer sitting there, you're migrating towards a stand-on skid steer because I can just jump on the back of it. I have color-coded controls. I have 3 levers I'm looking at versus 10 different switches. I have no idea what these other switches do. These stand-on skid steers are very simple in that aspect that you see 5 controls in front of you, like, okay, I could figure this out.
Yeah, 100%. And on the other end of that, you've got like the SK3000, which was like I said, introduced kind of several years ago now, and remains kind of like the most powerful product in this segment, period. 3,000 pounds of lifting capacity, something a lot of skid steers and CTLs can't do, in that package. Tell us a little bit about this machine, and who's using this machine. What are they typically using it for? Like, what are the typical types of applications that it's? Give us an idea of like who out there is really making use of that 3,000 pound lifting capacity.
Yeah, so that machine was introduced to go do more, right? With the 1550 predecessor to the 1750, there were still customers asking for more. Can I get a machine that can do more? And our answer to that was the SK3000. It can go out and do more. It can lift more. It's got more horsepower to the auxiliary. So we do see a lot of arborists taking advantage of the lifting capacity, moving these big 4-foot stomps out to the trailers in the front yards. And also the underground business is really good for us in the SK3000 because it does put enough horsepower to the ground. We can go do micro trenching with it. We can do deeper trenches up north, 4-foot trencher on the front of it. It has enough horsepower to go run those heavy duty attachments that a small 24 horsepower machine could not do.
Do you guys see? I mean, and because of this breadth of machines, I mean, sometimes the 3,000 is going to be the deal. Sometimes it's going to be something that is a little bit smaller that can kind of sneak through a backyard gate. How typical is it, and you guys experience to see contractors with? Because I think these machines also, some of the marketing around them, and even some of the kind of like the magnetism for them, the pull for certain people, is that they are kind of like a all-in-one type of a thing. And skid steers and CTLs can be marketed that way too. It's kind of like figure out like what the size of machine is that's going to be able to like completely cover you 100%. And like I feel like at a certain point though, like that drawing that line, like similar to how you would do with a skid steer or CTL, it kind of falls apart because these machines are so easy to transport and they are so kind of small. It feels like you could have like one or two of these for specific jobs. How common is that? I mean, I feel like the majority of people are still going to do like they're going to find the size that kind of covers 90% of what they need. But I feel like for like those more specialized applications, like the arborists and even like the hardscape and landscape guys, they're gonna want kind of like another tool in the tool belt of kind of like, okay, for this specific yard, we really didn't need all that capacity, but we do need to be able to get into this gate. How common is that to have more than one of these machines in a fleet?
Yeah, I've seen several job sites where there's two machines on the job. One's working in the backyard, one's pulling material to the front yard, one's feeding a chipper, just for example, on a tree job. So I've seen multiple units on the same job. I also see, if you're a landscape crew and you've got 3 different crews working in different areas, each crew's got their own machine. They're affordable in that fact that you could buy 2 or 3 for the price of a traditional cab skid steer, right? So every crew I have, I can afford to put a machine with them, and they can go do different jobs also. Not only having maybe 2 or 3 machines on the same job site is I can spread my crews out and we can go tackle a bunch of different jobs during the same day.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with a lot of landscape crews too. It just literally, as you were starting to talk, I was kind of like, yeah, it's almost like having multiple stand-on mowers for a lot of crews too, because I'm sure some of the guys that are doing kind of a little bit of both in terms of like the actual like lawn maintenance with kind of landscaping, it would be no different than having like a crew of 3 to 5 guys, one guy in the backyard, one guy in the front yard. And then similarly, another guy kind of like tidying things up if a customer needs that. And a lot of guys are now running around with these big box trucks or even on like a large trailer where you could get 2 or 3, stand-on mowers and maybe even a couple like mini skid steers in the back of one of these things, no problem. So that's a really optimal setup. And it's another kind of like huge reason, like you said, like you can get 2 or 3 of these machines for the price of what one used to cost you. So, we've talked about the 3,000, we've talked about the entry level end of it, we've talked about the new 1750. What would you guys consider your flagship machine though? What is kind of like the most popular, or even the kind of like machine that you guys feel like really exemplifies kind of like the majority of kind of like the capability or what customers are looking for in a ditch witch stand-on skid steer?
Yeah, with the introduction of the SK 1750, we've really seen huge demands for that. With the changes of the undercarriage that have taken place, that next level up, right? That's not an entry level machine. It's the next level up where people, man, they're like, I wish I could lift a little bit more. This is our next option. The SK 1750 it was picking up a lot of demand, a lot of talk, a lot of stir about it. So we're really excited about that machine. It's been in the market for 7 months now. Really picking up production and starting to see that demand, and people start to talk about it like that's the machine I want.
Yeah. So I mean, like when you think about, let's kind of contextualize it this way, with so much of the market kind of gravitating to that 1,000 pound capacity. Um, Take us through kind of like a comparison, I guess, of like that 1750. What are some of the key features of that 1750? And then like when are some of the times where you're kind of like, okay, well, this is when you should maybe start thinking about 1,000 pound machine instead of the 1750. But yeah, kind of take us through that compare and contrast there.
Yep. So you're looking at 24 horse on the entry level machine versus this 1750 having 44 horse. So we have much more capabilities in that aspect of running an attachment, maybe like a trencher or a Harley rake or a snowblower that does demand that extra horsepower up front on the auxiliary system. When you're looking at that, maybe you're doing a lot of tilling, a lot of raking. Maybe you need to do grading. You start to look at that bigger machine that can move more material, lifts more. That's really where that focus has been, and how it's different between a 24 horsepower unit. 24 horsepower unit can run attachments, but it depends on what you're doing. You can't dig as deep. You can't dig as wide. You can't do as much with 24 horse that you could do with 44 horsepower machine. And with the 1750 only being 47 inches wide, you can still get through that 4 foot gate. You're not going to get through a 3 foot gate, which that's where the 24 inch or 24 horsepower machines shine, is that 3 foot gate, right? That's kind of your 3 foot gate machine, and then you jump up to SK 1750, and that's your 4 foot gate machine. But your capabilities on that, outweigh, right, some of the differences, right? And we're not seeing as many 3 foot gates nowadays as we used to, with all the zero turn mowers and stand on mowers that have came out. They're wider than 3 foot, so a lot of people are not putting 3 foot gates in anymore. They're 5 foot gates. So that SK 1750 being 47 inches wide can get through most gates that we're starting to see in the backyards because of the mowing industry helping change the gate size.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good point. And then one of the other things too, in terms of that, if guys are opting for that 1750, what are the types of things that extra 750 pounds of capacity? I mean, obviously just like heavier things in general, but like how for those guys that really opt for that 1750, like what are the specific things typically that are that they're doing? Is it mostly the arborists and the hardscapers that are opting for that?
Not necessarily. It's more efficient in the fact that you may only have to take half the trips that day, and you can move on to another job.
Gotcha.
Right? You're not cutting the trees as much. You're leaving them twice as long as you could leave them with a 1,000 pound machine. You may be moving twice as much dirt in one load. You're cutting down on your trips. You're being more efficient. You have more horsepower to move, more materials. That way, you can get to that second job on the day, because that's important, right? I want to do 3 jobs a day. I want to take down 3 trees a day. But you're not going to do that with a 1,000 pound machine, because you're making a lot of trips, right? You're making twice as many cuts. You're making twice as many loads with dirt. Just being more efficient on job site with a little bit bigger machine is really where it shines.
Kind of finishing up here, I did want to give you a second to talk a little bit about some of the other key features on the 1750, and if you want to repeat some of them as well, just to kind of give us like a definitive kind of list here, since we've been focusing on this machine. What are kind of like in your eyes kind of some of those key kind of standout features of the 1750?
Yeah, like I said, the first one I wanted to mention again is the patent pending tension window. So you can walk up to this machine, you can see exactly how the tracks are tensioned. I don't know if you've thrown a track on a skid steer before, but it's very painful to get back on. I want to know that this track is tensioned correctly. We've came out with a solution that you can physically walk up, see it. Within seconds, if your track is tensioned correctly or not. You're not guessing. There's no guesswork. We've taken that completely out of the operator owner's eyes and be able to just focus in on making sure that track is tensioned before you go out to the job site every day. That's the number one aspect of the SK1750 is a really cool idea, patent pending tension window that we have. The other one is that being more reliable, having a more reliable roller under that track frame is something that we've focused on. We want to make sure that our machines are going out every day, being reliable and not having any downtime. And our dealers are great at that too. We have such a good dealer network in this business that they're going to be there, stand behind your customers and help them get through their days with no downtime or minimum downtime. Is really where we're focused on. The other something I'd like to throw out is that if you have questions, our local dealers across the world are there to help. They're there to answer questions. If you're curious about what machine would best fit your business, reach out to the local Ditch Witch dealer. They're there. They know what the job sites look like in your areas. They're a great resource for just bouncing questions off of. I just wanted to throw that out there as an option to talk more about this market and the machines that we offer.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Well, Brant, thank you so much for joining us to take us through the excellent Ditch Witch stand-on skid steer lineup. Like Brant said, if you guys have any other questions, just look up your local Ditch Witch dealer, and they will get you all set up and figured out. And check out these machines in person because they're awesome. That's one of the things about the legacy of these Ditch Witch machines too is just the durability, the reliability is proven over the last 20 to 30 years for sure. So Brant, thank you so much, man, for taking us through a discussion of this really interesting segment and the products you guys offer for it. And hope to do this again sometime, man. Thank you again.
Yeah, thanks, Wayne. I appreciate your time.
All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this conversation on Machine Heads interviews. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much again to our guests for joining us today for this great conversation on mini skid steers. Look, if you like this video, found it interesting in any kind of way, or if it's helping you make your next buying purchase, do us a favor and hit that like button below. It helps us bring you more content like this. Do us another favor, subscribe to the Compact Equipment YouTube channel here on YouTube, or head over to YouTube if you're watching this on our website. And if you're not on our website, be sure to check out compactequip.com, where you can find a lot more coverage just like this of the compact equipment industry. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.